Hi everybody, I'm Griffin with Electric Bike Report, and today I have with me the QuietKat Villager. This bike is an urban-oriented commuter from a brand a little bit more famously known for their off-road offerings. They are, however, bringing a lot of that heavy-duty look and feel to this commuter with 3-inch wide tires, a powerful 500-watt rear hub motor, and a lot of name brand componentry. I'm excited to dive into all the details with you and show you how it held up in our testing and review process, so let's get into it. Now, QuietKat is typically known for their off-road vehicles. They really have tied themselves in nicely with the sportsman crowd, hunters, fishers, and campers. Now, here with their urban-oriented commuter, they've actually brought a lot of those sturdier features meant for off-roading, and they've applied it here in this bike. That's evidenced by some things such as the welded-on rear rack, the 100mm travel fork, the heavy-duty metal fenders, or even the 203mm rotor disc brakes. All of this just adds up to the fact that QuietKat wanted to give people something they could commute on if they want something a little bit larger and beefier. Kind of like commuting in a truck or an SUV instead of commuting in a sedan or a crossover. But of course you do have the option for a little off-road play here as well. It's very capable and can do that and handle it just fine. The 3-inch wide tires give a really good tread pattern for the roads, but the versatility of how wide they are and voluminous make it pretty good for going off onto some well-worn dirt paths as well. Now, we're gonna dive into the performance of how a lot of these features play out, including that 500-watt rear hub motor and the integrated 617 watt-hour battery. But if you want the full breakdown of the spec sheet, you can head to the link down below at the EBR website, where you can take a look at the specs as well as links for current pricing. We first wanted to test out the safety of the QuietKat Villager, so we started things out with our brake test. Here at EBR, the brake test is where we bring the bike up to 20 miles per hour before coming to a stop as quickly and in control as we possibly can. We do this test multiple times and measure out the braking distances and take an average so we get a better and clearer picture of how quickly you can stop on this bike. Now, after running this test, I got an average stopping distance of 26 feet and 6 inches. I was a little surprised with this result as it's a little on the farther side. Now, given that they've spec'd this with Tektro mechanical disc brakes with 203mm rotors, that's a good rotor size. It's a lot larger than we typically see on a commuter, which is usually around the 180s, sometimes 160mm rotors. But I think the difference here is that it's mechanical instead of hydraulic, which does give you a little bit better stopping power, at least in terms of the overall distance. I will say though that the brakes were nice in as much as they remained in control. It didn't lock the wheel up and send it into a skid. It did just slow the tire down. So I'll put it on my wish list for things moving forward with the Villager. I do wish they'd maybe swap that to a 180mm rotor with hydraulic disc brakes, but overall it's an okay performing brake. Now, anybody looking to buy an e-bike wants to know how far they can expect to go on an e-bike. So we performed 2 different range tests. One on the maximum pedal assist setting and once on the lowest pedal assist setting where we felt a constant presence of motor engagement. Now, the times and distances that we got were a little surprising to us. QuietKat on their website claims between 19 and 38 miles per charge, depending on the speed you're traveling at and of course the variables such as the conditions you're in. What we saw in our test was a difference of 31 miles on the low end and up to 37 miles on the high end. Now, it was a little surprising since there's not a whole lot of variation in terms of overall distance, but of course we were traveling at much faster speeds on the high PAS, 17 miles per hour versus 11 miles per hour on the low end. So what that means for you is if you're looking at this for commuting, you can know that there's not a whole lot of incentive to lower the PAS to prioritize battery life. You can actually increase that if you want, knowing that you'll just shave a little bit of overall distance off, but you will be able to get where you're going pretty quickly overall. At the end of the day, I think this is pretty good coming from that 614 watt-hour battery with the 500-watt motor. It's a pretty efficient pairing that I think will satisfy most commuters, knowing they can go a few days at a time before having to charge. To help us get a better understanding of how the motor engages and the types of speeds you can achieve while riding on the QuietKat Villager, we put it through our circuit test. Now the EBR circuit is a 1 mile loop consisting of 4 right-hand turns and a small 30-foot climb. We do this test once with the motor cut off and once in each level of pedal assist to help find out the types of speeds you can achieve on this bike. Now we had, again, some kind of interesting results. I was able to get about 13.3 miles per hour pedaling around without the motor's help, and then pedal assist 1 and 2 didn't help out a whole lot except for from those dead stops, giving me just slightly faster times. We saw more significant jumps in PAS 3, 4, and 5, and that PAS 5 result being over the 20 mile per hour mark is actually kind of interesting considering that this motor cuts off at 20 miles per hour. Now what that means is it accelerates pretty well in those higher pedal assist settings, and of course the drivetrain on this, the SRAM 7-speed that it's equipped with, gives you enough pedal bite that once you get to that point you can continue pedaling to get a little bit faster speeds. I thought it handled very well while out on the circuit. It took the corners quite nicely and rolled really nicely across those 3-inch wide tires. They're a little bit more oriented for the road, although there is a little bit of tread pattern that helps them off-road. So wherever you're going, you can get there about as fast as you want to go if you're riding in PAS 3, 4, and 5. Overall, I like the motor engagement here. It is a rear hub motor. Sometimes we can find that they're a little bit too hard on accelerating, but this one actually kind of hits that sweet spot in terms of propelling you and keeping you going forward out on the roads. Now to help you get more acquainted with the overall layout of the QuietKat Villager, I'm going to walk you a little bit through the handlebar cockpit as well as just speak to the overall handling and feel while riding around. On either side there are some soft rubber grips. I really like these grips a lot. They're a little bit squishy, kind of easy to get your hands into them, and then they stay planted while you're out there on the roads. On the left-hand side is a thumb throttle. It's very easy to use. It also ties in with the level of pedal assist that you have set and will match that speed same as if you were pedaling. On the right-hand side is a SRAM X3 shifter that pairs to the SRAM X4 derailleur here in the back with 7 different gears. I've always been a fan of SRAM equipment. It's worked very consistently for me, and it's very crisp as you're out there moving from gear to gear. Now, in the dead center of the handlebar there is the LCD black and white display. It's very utilitarian, kind of a bare bones design, but it does give you all the essential things that you need to know, such as speed and battery life, as well as overall trip distance. Now, moving down through the bike here, you'll notice that this is the only frame size that the Villager comes in. It's a one size fits all. I like the step-through design with only a 16-inch clearance to get over it. Makes it very accessible for some riders on the shorter end of the spectrum. I think it'll fit riders about 5'1" to about 6'2", 6'3" maybe, no problem. Me as a 6'1" rider, I felt fairly comfortable while riding around on the Villager. Now for the contact points, this seat right here is a memory foam seat from QuietKat. It is actually a lot more comfortable than I thought it was going to be at first glance. It looked more performance-y, but it actually held up really nicely for me while I was out riding around. Going back to the front of the bike there is the fork that has been painted by QuietKat. It's an RST 100mm fork. It's a little bit bigger than we've seen on most commuters. A lot come with 65mm forks. So that gives you just a little bit more extra travel to make it nicer if you're commuting to work or if you do plan on taking this off-road. Now, part of that off-road capabilities is thanks to the 3-inch wide tires. The tread pattern on this is a little bit more road-oriented, and then overall the bike just feels pretty comfortable, I'd say. The positioning on it has you a little bit more forward as it is a commuter, but it's not too performance-based by any means. It won't tire your back out too quickly or anything like that. And I do like some of the other things that speak more to a hardcore commuter or something that is a commuter first, but they want to make sure holds up if you do take it into a lot of off-roading. That comes down to the metal fenders. They'll hold up nicely. They do clang a little bit as rocks bounce off of them if you take it off-road, but it'll last you for the long run. Also, this rack here in the back is a welded-on integrated rack. I love to see that personally. I have kids and I like to throw on a child seat, take them with me when I'm out riding. And having that integrated rack versus a bolt-on one just gives me a little bit more confidence as I'm using a bike. Overall, I'd say this is spec'd out pretty nicely. I think the only thing in terms of feel that I would maybe change, while I like the drivetrain overall, I do wish that there was an 8th gear that would really take it over the top for me. I did notice that it would get a little bit spinny if I got the bike up past the 20 mile per hour speed that the motor's capable of. but around 21 miles per hour, just felt like I spun out a little bit there. Having that 8th gear to help carry me a little bit further would have been nice. But overall, I think you get a quality package here. There's a lot of name brand componentry, from the Tektro brakes to the SRAM drivetrain and the RST fork. I think it adds up to the overall value found on this bike. Two of the main reasons that people buy e-bikes are for the help from battery life to go further, and of course help from the motor to go up hills. So to test out the hill climbing capabilities for the QuietKat Villager, we took it to our test hill called Hellhole. Now Hellhole is about 1/3 of a mile long with a 12% average grade. It's a very steep hill that we chose specifically as it really puts bikes to the absolute limit that the motors are capable of. Now we did this test 2 different times. We did it once only using the throttle and once on the maximum pedal assist. Now this bike was no slouch by any means when it came to the hills. We got a time of 1:45 on throttle and 1:12 on pedal assist. The throttle time's about middle of the pack for us, but the pedal assist was actually a little bit better than 500 watt motors that we typically see. Now, part of the display here in the middle, it actually does come with a wattage readout. That's something I really like to see on bikes because it lets me know how hard I'm riding it at any given time. If I see higher wattage, I can expect shorter battery life. But not only that, we really saw a commitment to helping power riders to the top of the hill. It's a 500 watt motor, but it does peak out beyond that. We saw readings that were up to about 850 watts of peak power. So it's really nice to know that you can hop on this, and no matter how hilly your commute is, you're gonna be able to get to the top of those hills while riding on the QuietKat Villager. My biggest takeaway from my time with the QuietKat Villager is this. It is a good commuter for someone who wants something bigger and sturdier. Whether you're a larger rider who wants something that you can feel can carry you, or if you're just someone who appreciates something that's just a little bit bigger and keeps you feeling a little bit safer out there on the roads, this bike can definitely fit the bill. It is a pretty easy to hop on bike thanks to the 16-inch step over. It has a 325-pound payload, which is great for heavier riders or for people looking to carry some extra cargo on the integrated rear rack here. I think that it's a pretty efficient bike overall with that 500 watt motor and 614 watt-hour battery. It made good use and got really good battery life. It's the type of bike you can ride around on all day long. I also have failed to mention up to this point in the review just how many different ways you can accessorize the QuietKat Villager. Since QuietKat has worked extensively with sportsmen and the outdoor types, they even have these mounting points back here at the rear of the frame where you can attach different cargo trailers that might fit your needs if you are taking a lot of things out there with you. Now, it's not a perfect bike by any means. There are a couple of things on my wish list. I wish there was slightly better braking performance. If they'd switched to hydraulic disc brakes in the future, I'll be very happy with that. And I wouldn't hate seeing maybe an 8th gear option as well, so it's a little less spinny on downhills. But honestly, those are pretty small things on the wish list because overall, I think the performance is pretty good and solid all around. Now, if you found this review helpful, please consider giving us a like down below. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the Electric Bike Report channel. And for full details and all the data we collected while doing this bike, you can head to the EBR website from the link down below, where there's also a link for current pricing as well. Again, I'm Griffin Hales with Electric Bike Report, and we'll see you on the next review.